Yo, what's going on, guys? Loki here, back at it again with another YouTube video. I was told to react to a video from Saintontas. This will be our first time reacting to this creator. My boy AJ sent this to me, so I was told to react to this. WuWa ruined 5-star dupes. Let's take a look, but I was told it was something along the lines of dupes should be damage increases, incremental damage increases, not adding to a character's kit. That is a very interesting topic. So I am definitely interested in taking a look at this video. Let's get right into it. If it ever loads.
Interest to make these upgrades powerful, but 5-star character dupes are one of the foundations of gacha gaming. They're a way for players to acquire more power, show their undying dedication and loyalty to a character, and a fantastic way for developers to make money. It's oftentimes in a dev's best interest to make these upgrades powerful, but some devs go a bit too far, making them feel necessary for the character to work. These dupes are one of the biggest investments a player can make. With the resource
Gion's S1, it gives him 2 spears. Oh, it says it right here. It gives him 2 spears, which is like, I don't know if that necessarily makes it completes his kit. I guess in like Hoyo games, if we're talking Hoyo games, like a character like Jade performs significantly differently compared to E0 Jade, right? Like if her E0 was her base kit, or Blade's E6 was his E0, and then every other eidolon was just a damage increase, character would be so much better. The character would be so much better, and they would have way more pool value.
Resources you spend on unlocking a single ability for a character, you could have pulled a completely new character or a signature weapon, which are both typically a better use for your limited pulls or your money, especially if you're trying to get the best gameplay experience possible. However, there are some developers in the gacha space that, in recent years, have given their players a lot more incentive to dig into their wallets, not by making these bonuses very attractive, but by restricting the baseline power of the character in ways that feel very bad for the player.
You know a really good one I just thought of? Putao C1. Bro. The character plays so differently when she has her C1 her C1 versus just like C0. It's like early Genshin. Oh man, that was one of the best C1s in the game.
Unless they decide to spend. Instead of adding new features through these dupes, they lock what should have already been in their kit. And it's very clear which company is at the root of all these consumer-unfriendly business practices. Wuthering Waves, fortunately, is not a game that falls under this category. When you pull a character in WuWa, you know that they're going to perform across their intended role with no strings attached. While there are some characters who can expand their use cases with additional investment, the baseline characters don't feel like a part of their kit has been taken out and locked behind additional spending, unlike other gacha games in the genre. Today we'll be diving into how this is the case, exploring why the design of sequence nodes across all of WuWa's 5 stars differs so much from its competition, why other games' implementation
Like Surekeeper's S1, it extends the like duration or whatever. It does some other things as well, but it also extends the duration of her ult, so it's like you don't have to play as well and have as much like tight timing. So that in and of itself is that's a good consolation or a good sequence.
have become so much more suffocating as time has gone on, and the many long-term benefits of Kuro's implementation that a lot of players haven't realized yet. This system can only get better with age, especially for our standard 5 stars. As always, if you're enjoying this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. A common trend you'll find across every limited character in Wuthering Waves is that all of their characters feel complete at S0. Early sequence nodes don't add entirely new abilities or interactions across their kit that feel necessary for them to function. You can't say the same for other games in the genre.
That's so
and
true,
some of
actually.
the biggest offenders in this category belong to everyone's favorite example of the sunk cost
That's
fallacy.
so true. Like going back to what I said earlier about like Gion, like obviously you don't need his like S1. It just gives you like another spear charge and extra energy just to make him like a bit more comfy to play. As essentially it's just more damage, right? That's what I'm getting from this video so far. You're just getting more damage from these. I like even Camellia's S2. It's the 130% ephemeral damage, right? You're essentially more than doubling the bust, if you will. And that in and of itself is a very good like investment if you do want that damage. But locking, like back to what we were saying earlier with like Genshin, locking like, oh, now this character's spear charge doesn't consume stamina, or like, you know, like stuff like that is just super cringe. Sunk cost fallacy, a phenomenon where a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they have invested heavily in it, even when it is clear that abandonment should. Oh yeah. I get where he's going with this.
Fallacy, Genshin Impact. Version 4.1 released 2 characters who, in all honesty, were not complete with just a single copy. Wriothesley, a main DPS, had a unique mechanic built into his normal attacks that increased their damage at the cost of his health until he reached 50% or lower, where he'd lose that damage bonus and stop consuming his HP. He'd unlock a special attack at 60% health that did a massive amount of bonus damage and healed him. The only thing is, this healing ability had a cooldown longer than the rate he'd lose health, making his playstyle one of the most nonsensical in the game at C0. He'd damage himself faster than he could heal, giving him awful uptime on the damage bonuses and making him completely non-functional as a DPS.
So wouldn't that mean you would have to use like Bennett or something, or some type of a healing aura? Like I don't own Wriothesley or anything, or I don't like play Genshin too much anymore, so I don't really know. Would this still be counting if you were to like swap to Jean or something and pop ult just to get like a little healing field?
Unless he had a healer on his team.
Yeah,
when
okay.
many meta teams ran a shielder instead of a healer, this meant that your limited DPS character had half the team comps of others in a game focused around roster building. That is... unless you decided to pull for his first constellation, which granted him a free use of this special attack every time he completed his buffed attack
That's so
chain,
cringe.
turning him into a self-sustaining unit that
sucks.
no longer needed a healer to just work in the first place, or an actual complete character. Wriothesley wasn't the only character in version 4.1 that had these handicaps built into their kit. New Valette, also released in 4.1, was not able to reach his full potential with his best teammate, Farina, as a major source of his damage bust in his kit didn't work if he had another Hydro character on his team. That restriction removed with his first dupe. Who cares that New Valette and Farina are a prominent duo featured across the entirety of Fontaine's story arc?
Right.
You can't use them at their full potential unless you pull a second copy of New Valette. It's one thing to use the story to promote your on-banner character, it's another thing to completely nerf the performance of 2 characters who are meant to be together unless you pull dupes. The Genshin devs essentially locked the full functionality of these characters behind the gacha. Pulling the character wasn't enough. They needed you to pull for their first copy to make them feel complete and usable across their best teams. It's consumer unfriendly, greedy, and a horrible experience for the players. And it's a business practice they carried forward into another game, Honkai Star Rail. Acheron is easily the biggest offender here when it comes to corporate greed.
E2.
The character comes with arbitrary restrictions across her teams that require requires 2 characters of a specific class to reach her full damage potential.
Yep.
Without these 2 additional Nihility characters, her output drops off a cliff. This meant her teammates were extremely limited compared to other main DPSs, but you could simply pull 2 more copies to remove this restriction completely. This is just another game by the same parent company focused on teams and roster building to clear content that released more characters with team comps paywalled behind dupes. Wuthering Waves and Kuro games don't have the same design philosophy as Hoyoverse. Experimenting with teams and kits to spice up gameplay and try new combos is one of the greatest parts of a party-based game. Paywalling a character's potential to simply be used with other characters is one of the most consumer-unfriendly practices you can have. The closest example of this you can find across WuWa's limited characters is Shorekeeper's S1, which increases the length and range
I literally
of
said this.
liberation.
I literally said this. I said this because I was in a streamer stream yesterday, and they were on someone's Shorekeeper account, and they were testing Camilla, and they ran out of uptime on her ult because after Camilla uses her Concerto, you have to build it up again to go back into Shorekeeper to do her cinema animation. And they ran out of uptime because they didn't do it efficiently enough. Because typically the way you would have to do it is you would have to build up your Concerto first, then ult, then swap out of Shorekeeper rather than ulting first as soon as you swap onto the character. And what happened was the certain streamer said, "Oh, you don't have S1? That's so cringe." And I was like, "Bro, is that how out of touch we're getting? Are we that out of touch that we're calling out our viewers for not having consolations? That's crazy." Nah, no shade. I'm just saying.
While giving her more freedom with her intro skill. But this upgrade mostly makes her easier to play. She already feels like a complete character at S0 across all of her teams. She didn't have components of her kit and viability locked behind a paywall. It's night and day compared to Hoyoverse. However, WuWa standard characters are a different story. Kuro did in fact lock features behind dupes, giving every standard DPS an attribute damage bonus to the entire team after going through their entire rotation, turning them from a traditional hypercarry into a potential sub DPS with enough dupes. While you could draw similarities between these upgrades and those in Hoyo games, the fact of the matter.
So clearly he's only talking about Wuthering Waves and kind of like all of Hoyo, but he hasn't mentioned Zenless at all. Is Zenless this way as well? Like off of the top of my head, I can't think of a single character that this applies to except like Yanagi, like her M2, where she gets the extra like spear charges. It's just so comfy. And then you also just have like infinite iframes during that as well. So it's one of those cons that changes their playstyle tremendously, but that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. I guess Juyan M1, the bullets refunding off of the ult. But I think that's like more damage than it is changing her gameplay. But it does kind of change her gameplay in a way. So it's a very like nuanced discussion. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section if Zenless is a offender of this as well.
Is that this is a far more consumer-friendly implementation. Limited characters are meant to be stronger or feel better to play than standard ones. You need incentives for players to pull on banners, and standard character dupes are inevitable as that player pulls because of lost 50/50s. So all these dupes do is add more meta viability to older characters every single player will eventually have access to. This also makes losing 50/50 sting a bit less, as they're actually building towards something useful instead of upgrading a character like
That's so true. Because like if you guys saw my Camellia pulls, I pulled a double, right? So right now I'm just currently pulling on her banner because if I do get S2, it's whatever. That's 130% damage increase for ephemeral. But if I lose the 50/50, hey, it's whatever. We're set up for whoever we want, you know. So
Luke or Chi-Chi who will never see actual use on your account. That's a lot different from locking default capabilities of limited characters behind dupes, especially when some characters, like Wriothesley, have gone more than a year without a rerun banner. That's over a year of someone potentially having an incomplete character on their account with no opportunity to pull and fix them. That is a horrifying player experience. With that said, Wuthering Waves is still in its early stages. We're not even at the half anniversary yet, and there are still many more limited characters to come. But from what we've seen across Kuro's existing character design and clear dedication towards its players' enjoyment of the game, we likely won't be seeing cursed business practices like this in Wuthering Waves. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Peace out.
Yo, that's a fire video. That's a fire video. I've never reacted to this subscriber before, or to this creator before, but I will be checking out more of their content for sure. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.